fiery horse with the speed of light, a cloud of dust, and a hearty Hi-Yo Silver, the Lone Ranger. With his faithful Indian companion Tonto, the daring and resourceful masked rider of the plains led the fight for law and order in the early western United States. Nowhere in the pages of history can one find a greater champion of justice. Return with us now to those thrilling days of yesteryear. From out of the past come the thundering hoofbeats of the great horse Silver. The Lone Ranger rides again.
Come on, Silver. Let's go, big fellow. Hi-Yo Silver. Oh!
In the little western town of Stockton, Mary Lowell looked up as her husband, young Dr. Douglas Lowell, entered their small home on the edge of town.
Doug, you're home at last. Had an all-night siege of it with old Mrs. Manning, I guess. How is she?
Better.
Oh, I'm glad. I'll get you some coffee, dear. I know you must be hungry.
No, I don't want anything to eat, Mary.
Doug, of course you do. You can't go on.
I said I don't want anything. Isn't that enough?
Why, Doug.
Oh, I'm sorry, honey. I guess I am tired out.
Doug, look at me.
Well, I'm looking at you. What?
Darling, you're not fooling me for 1 minute. Now, tell me what's wrong. Is it... Well, has he come to Stockton?
Yes. Yes, he has. Why? Why can't he let me alone? No matter where we go, he follows. Just when I begin to get confidence in myself, I see him. Watching. Waiting.
I know, dear. But don't you see? The effect he's having on you is just what he wants. You can't be running away forever, Doug.
No, I can't. Jim Barry swore he'd follow me wherever I went. He swore if I ever took a scalpel in my hand again, if I ever performed another operation, he'd kill me.
Yes, I know that, Doug. When you gave up your practice in St. Louis because of Jim Barry, I hoped as we moved from one town to another, you'd overcome your fear of him.
It isn't so much that I fear what he'd do, Mary. Well, it's the effect on my nerves. We can't go on this way much longer.
Now, sit down a moment, Doug. Maybe if we talk this out...
Talk? What good can that do?
Darling, face the facts. Jim Barry is a professional gambler. He can go into any town here in the West and make a living in his own way.
I know that.
But you can't, Doug. You're a doctor and a good one. But to make a living, to get the funds to keep going, you must settle in one place and have a good practice. Here in Stockton, the people are beginning to like you, to call on you. With old Dr. Wiley retiring next week and going east, it's our big chance.
It's no use, Mary. With Barry in town, I'd never...
Think back a bit, dear. When Jim Barry first called on you to treat his wife for appendicitis, You told him an operation was necessary immediately, didn't you?
Yes, I did.
He refused to let you operate until a week later. It was the only thing to do to try to save her. But it was too late, as you know.
Why remind me of all that? Haven't we gone through enough without
Now,
you?
wait a minute, Doug. We've got to face this together. Jim Barry is a cold, calculating gambler. Perhaps he might carry out his threat to kill you if you did operate again. But his main objective is to make you suffer through fear. To make you give up your profession entirely. Doug, we have to beat this somehow.
I wish we could. While Dr. Wiley is here, he could be called on for any operating needed. But after he goes...
Doug, go get some rest. Right now, you're too tired to think straight.
Barry will start the same underhanded talk that drove us out of other places, Mary. I just can't stand it any longer.
Poor Doug.
I'm afraid we'll have to move on to some other town. I'll give up my profession once and for all.
That afternoon, Tonto, Indian companion to the Lone Ranger, stopped at the general store for some supplies. As he entered, Mary Lowell was talking to the storekeeper.
Now, I guess that's all I need.
Well, that ain't enough for more than one meal, Mrs. Lowell. You sure you don't want to...
No, that'll be enough. By the way, Mr. Jenkins, will you add up our account and have it ready for me in the morning?
Yes'm, but 'tain't the end of the month yet. Usually
I
pay
know,
up
but... Well, we may be leaving Stockton in a few days, Mr. Jenkins.
Leaving Stockton? But why? We're sure going to have need for a good young doctor now that Doc Wiley's fixing to go away east.
Yes, I know.
Folks is getting to be right fond of your husband, too. He can't go off and leave us without a doctor to look after them as get so sick and all.
My husband has decided to go...
Well, Dr. Lowell's wife. It's good to see you again.
I was just leaving, Mr. Barry. I'll be in the morning, Mr. Jenkins.
Say, now don't that beat all? She went out and left her packages. Seems right upset about something.
I guess she is at that.
Says she and the doc are figuring on leaving here. Sure can't understand it.
Well, maybe I can. I know the Lowells very well. I want some tobacco.
Sure. Only got the one kind, mister. There you are.
Well, thanks. Yeah, there's the money. You seeing you again, old-timer?
He's a new one in town. Hear tell he's quite a sharp gambler, too. What'll it be, Indian?
Now, here, list. Me come back later, pick up supplies. You have 'em ready, huh?
Later, Tonto returned and got the supplies. Then he rode out to the camp, which he shared with the Lone Ranger.
Oh, Scout, fella. Easy, Scout. Easy, fella. Easy.
You made good time, Tonto. Any news from town?
Well, you know a young doctor in town, Kimasabi.
Dr. Lowell?
Ah.
Yes. Seems to be a very good doctor. He's working up quite a practice in Stockton. Since old Dr. Wiley's retiring, they need a man like Lowell.
Well, me hear him fixing to leave town.
Lowell leaving town?
Ah.
I wonder why.
Well, me not know. Me in store and doctor's wife there. Her say them leave town in few days.
That's strange.
Feller come in. Him stranger in town. Gambler named Barry. Me think him know something. Have something to do with doctor leaving.
Oh, what makes you think that?
Well, him know doctor and wife. Her not seem glad to see Barry. Her leave store pronto without packages.
I see.
Storekeeper say him not savvy why doctor leave town. Gambler say maybe him know. Him say him know Lowell's well. Then him go to cafe.
That's interesting.
Well, me listen in cafe. Hear Barry talk about doctor.
What did he say?
Him tell men at cafe doctor not much good. Him say doctor have to leave east. And him not say why.
I've watched Dr. Lowell with interest, Tonto. Also, I've heard that old Dr. Wiley thinks he's a very good medical man. I'd like to know more about both Dr. Lowell and that gambler, Barry.
Me not like gambler. Him have mean look.
It's certain that Barry has something to do with Dr. Lowell's decision to leave Stockton. Tonto, I'm going to find out just what the situation is. Stockton could do without a gambler like Barry, but it can't do without Dr. Lowell.
That evening, the Lone Ranger removed his mask, and then, with Tonto's help, carefully disguised his face until he looked like one of the many ranchers who lived outside of Stockton. Then, mounting his great stallion, Silver, he rode to town. A short time later, old Dr. Wiley, who was sitting in his living room reading, heard a knock at the door.
Well, now, who can that be?
Good evening, Dr. Wiley.
Good evening. Oh, if you're in need of a doctor, I suggest you go to Dr. Lowell up the street. I'm no longer...
I came here to talk to you about Dr. Lowell. It's important, sir.
Well, then, come in.
Thank you.
What is it you want to talk about?
Well, I know you're planning to go east in a few days.
That's right. I'm getting too old.
I heard today that Dr. Lowell is going to leave Stockton, too.
I got to admit I heard the same thing.
Just what is your opinion of Lowell as a medical man, Dr. Wiley?
Well, now, I think he's one of the smartest young men in the profession, if you want to know the truth.
Oh?
I reckon he's beginning to realize it and has decided that a place like Stockton isn't big enough for him.
I don't believe that's his reason for leaving.
Then you tell me what his, mister, if you know.
But I don't know. But I thought if you talked to him, you could persuade him to stay. Give him confidence in himself.
Fact is, I tried to talk to him just before supper. But he just shook his head and excused himself.
I see.
I'll tell you what, though.
Yes?
Maybe if I went down to the cafe and got a committee of the men to go to his house, he might be persuaded to stay. What do you think of that?
Well, it might work. Anyway, it's worth a try.
I'm just as anxious as you ranchers to have a doctor here in Stockton to take my place, and in my opinion, Dr. Lowell is the one it should be. If he goes, no telling how long it'll be before you can get another one out here.
That's right.
If you want to wait a few minutes, you can go with me when I go to the cafe to get that committee.
All right. And I hope Dr. Lowell will listen to them.
A short time later in the cafe, Jim Barry, the gambler, sat dealing cards at one of the tables.
All right, Barry, I got you this time. Ha! Give me one card.
Yeah, there it is.
Look at that, boys, huh? Ha! Yes, sir, I'm betting all I have, Barry. There you are.
I'll cover that bet.
Barry's gone.
There. Now, what have you got?
Ha! Look there. 3 kings and 2 deuces.
All right, take a look at this. 3 aces and 2 deuces. My pile, fella.
Why, you dirty cheat. Look out. This'll settle you. Oh, my arm.
His bullet got Doc Wiley. He was just coming in. The stranger with him shot back.
Take that man to the sheriff.
Yeah, that was straight shooting, mister. He caught me off guard.
There are others to think of besides you, Barry. Dr. Wiley.
Is he hurt bad? Jake went off his head.
Dr. Wiley is badly hurt. We'll have to get him off the floor.
Take him to the back room, mister. There's a cot in there. I'll help you with it.
Easy now, easy.
I'll open the door.
There you are.
Here's the cot.
Now put him down easy.
Get Dr. Lowell. Tell him maybe he'll have to operate. Get bullet. Otherwise,
Take it easy, fella. We'll get Dr. Lowell. If necessary, he can operate right here.
The curtain falls on the first act of our Lone Ranger story. Before the next exciting scenes, please permit us to pause for just a few moments. Now to continue our story. As Dr. Wiley and the Lone Ranger entered the cafe, one of the men who had just lost everything in a card game with Barry pulled his gun and shot, hitting Dr. Wiley and wounding him critically. Gaspingly, the old doctor told the Lone Ranger to get Dr. Lowell, that a quick operation would be needed to save his life. Tonto, who had been waiting around town for the Lone Ranger, heard the shooting in the cafe. He entered just after Dr. Wiley had been placed on the cot in the back room.
Me here shooting, Kimasabi. Me come quick.
Tonto, I'm glad you're here. Do what you can for Dr. Wiley while I go for Dr. Lowell.
Me do it.
You can go to Lowell, mister, but I'm betting you won't get him to operate.
We'll see about that, Barry. That won't be long, Tonto. All right, let me through, fellas, will you? All right, one side, please. Steady, Silver. Easy, big fella. One, two, there. Oh, Silver. Oh, easy, steady, easy now. Barry seems short of himself.
Yes. What is it?
I came to get Dr. Lowell. It's an emergency. Dr. Wiley's been critically wounded.
Oh.
What is it, Mary? Is someone to see
Doug,
me?
this man says Dr. Wiley has been critically wounded. He wants you to go with him.
Yes, hurry, please.
Where is Dr. Wiley?
At the cafe. Bring all your instruments. You may have to operate.
What?
I think the bullet is lodged near the heart.
But I...
Oh, Doug, you must go.
Get your medical kit and come on. Every minute counts, man.
I'll go and do what I can for him. But I won't operate. I can't. I'll get my kit.
A short time later, the Lone Ranger and Dr. Lowell entered the cafe and headed through the crowd for the back room, which had been cleared in readiness for the doctor. Just as they reached the door to the back room, Jim Barry momentarily laid his hand on Lowell's arm.
Just a moment, Lowell.
Barry,
Remember, Lowell, operations can result in death for certain people.
Step aside, Barry. Go in, Doctor.
Dr. Lowell, it's up to you. Bullet lodged near the heart, it seems like.
I'll examine the wound. Him hurt plenty bad.
Well, Dr. Lowell.
He's right. An operation is necessary.
I have to work fast.
But
His life is in your hands, Dr. Lowell.
All right, I'll do it. I'll need some help.
How don't I'll help?
We'll have to work fast. I'll need plenty of hot water. It'll be a delicate operation, but I'll do my best.
In spite of the fear that Jim Barry's remark had put in his mind, Dr. Lowell worked with a steady hand, gaining the admiration of both Tonto and the Lone Ranger by his quick, decisive movements as he went about the delicate operation. Finally, the last bandage was in place, and Lowell straightened up, a strange expression on his face.
Well, that's it.
Am I right in thinking the operation was successful, Dr. Lowell?
Yes. With the proper care and attention, Dr. Wiley will completely recover.
You don't look too pleased with your work, Doctor.
Oh, I'm very well satisfied with the result, mister, but...
What were you about to say?
Nothing at all. I've done all I can at present. I'll go home now, sir. Good night.
Good night, Doctor.
Him look plenty strange, Kimasabi.
Yes, and I think I know why. Otto, you stay here with the patient. I'm going out the back way. I'll see you later.
Meantime, Dr. Lowell walked through the crowded cafe, answering the many questions in monosyllables.
Do you have to operate, Doc?
Yes.
Will it be all right, do you think?
Yes.
It sure must have took nerve to do it, didn't it?
Yes.
You're all right, Doc. You sure are.
Thanks.
Hold on, Lowell.
Well?
Remember what I told you back in St. Louis?
Yes.
I just wanted to know.
Jim Barry, as far as I'm concerned, you can go as far as you like. I've decided to stay in Stockton.
Hey, what do you mean by that?
Nothing at all. I guess he just doesn't like gamblers. Well, men, I have to go along. I have some business to attend to. See you all later.
Young Dr. Lowell left the cafe and started walking slowly up the main street toward his home. The only light was the glow from the various shops that were still open for business. But it was light enough for him to notice the figure that emerged from the cafe behind him and followed him up the deserted street. Doug Lowell knew that the warped mind of the gambler, Barry, would cause him to attempt to go through with the threat that had for some time made the young doctor's life miserable. He thought of the tall stranger who had stood beside him and who had helped him during the operation he had just performed. And the thought gave him courage. Courage to face an issue now, to put to the test the threats of a man who walked a short distance behind him. Doug carried no gun, but he knew this fact wouldn't deter the man whose strange madness caused him to seek revenge for a fancied wrong. Suddenly, Doug stopped and turned to face Jim Barry.
All right, Barry. We're out here alone. I have no gun. You have.
You should have come prepared, Lowell.
Come to your senses. You know what happened back in St. Louis couldn't be helped.
Lowell, you with your blundering operation caused my wife's death. I told you then if you ever used a scalpel again, I'd kill you.
Dr. Wiley was dying. I had to operate. He knew I had to.
That's too bad for you. You should have given up trying to be a doctor. You thought I'd give up following you, didn't you? Well, I've enjoyed it. Enjoyed watching you squirm. Enjoyed watching you pull up stakes and move on. Enjoyed waiting for this minute. Though I never thought you'd have the nerve to go through with an operation.
Barry, you're mad. Stark, raving mad.
Am I? But you're afraid, aren't you? You're squirming now, aren't you? While you wait for the bullet that'll finish you off.
You'll hang for this? Shooting a man in cold blood?
Maybe. I don't think so. Not when I tell him I followed you for months because you killed my wife. Oh, the law isn't as strict out here as it is in St. Louis, Lowell.
All right. If you're going to shoot, get it over with. I can't stand this any longer.
Sure, I'll let you have it, Lowell. Here's the bullet I have marked just for you.
What? You saved my life. He was about
Yes,
to...
I know. I expected him to follow you.
My shoulder up.
He's fainted. Let's get him to your place before a crowd gathers. He's
Right.
not badly wounded. Hurry, help me get him to the house.
A few minutes later, the Lone Ranger and Dr. Lowell carried the unconscious gambler into Lowell's house.
Easy now.
What's happened? Who is it? Why, it's Jim Barry.
Put him here on this
All
couch.
right. You'd better attend to his wound, Doctor.
Let me see. One in the left shoulder above the heart.
Yes, I know.
I'll get hot water from the stove.
I'll have to probe for the billet. Won't take long.
Now, here's your kit.
Here's the hot water, Doug. Is it very serious?
No, just a shoulder wound. I believe he fainted from fear rather than anything else.
But what happened?
Really doesn't matter, Mrs. Lowell. Doctor, fix him up before he regains consciousness. Be sure to put plenty of bandages on him.
Doug Lowell, working swiftly and expertly, soon finished attending to Jim Barry's wound. He had just fastened the last bandage in place when Barry opened his eyes. He stared at the faces bending over him. Then his eyes came to rest on the young doctor, and he struggled to rise.
You dirty...
Easy, Barry. You've been wounded, you know.
Yes. Yes, I remember now. I was hit in the shoulder. I could have gotten over it without this sneaking sawbones working on me.
Wait a minute, Barry.
I know. You thought I'd think it was serious. That you saved my life by operating. You thought I'd overlook the fact that you killed my wife with your blundering operation? Well, I'll get well. And I'll still hound you until I finally kill you.
Keep quiet, Barry, and listen to me.
Why should I listen?
Your wound wasn't serious, Barry. But if it had gone without proper care, you might have died from infection a few days from now. Many people out here do when wounds aren't given medical treatment.
That's right.
Well, maybe so.
The same situation existed in connection with your wife, Barry. Dr. Lowell told you an operation was necessary. You refused, deciding to take a chance. After infection had set in, because of your stubborn pig-headedness, Lowell tried to save your wife by operating, but it was too late. She would have died anyway. Now no one can be blamed for that but yourself. Now get that through your head and come to your senses.
That's what Dr. Lowell said to me about my wife. If she'd had quick medical attention, she could have been saved.
That's right, Barry. You refused my services until it was too late, even though I did my best at the time.
I'm sorry, Doctor. Sorry for the way I've acted. I was sort of out of my head all that time, I guess. I just thought, well, only of getting back at you.
Let's forget it, shall we?
I suppose you'll turn me over to the sheriff now.
I don't think that'll be necessary, Barry. I had to shoot to prevent you from committing murder in cold blood. I think you've learned your lesson.
Yes. Yes, I have.
Thank heaven. Now Doug and I can stay here in Stockton.
Yes, we need both of you here. Your husband showed courage when he operated on Dr. Wiley, knowing what the result might be.
You gave me the courage to do it, sir.
I'll leave now and join my friend. I think from now on you and Jim Barry will get along. Adios.
Goodbye.
Jim Barry can stay with us until he's well again, Doug.
Yes, of course.
But that man who just left, it puzzles me. Who is he? Do you know?
I found out from the Indian friend who was with him at the cafe. Right now, his features are disguised, but he usually wears a black mask. He's known as the Lone Ranger.
This is a product of the Lone Ranger Incorporated, created and produced by George W. Trendle, directed by Charles D. Livingston, and edited by Fran Stryker. The part of the Lone Ranger is played by Brace Beamer.